For a couple of weeks now, I've been trying to figure out what to say about the experience I'm going to describe. I found a number of adjectives that sort of work: exotic, ethereal, otherworldly, consciously expanding, colorful, mind-bending, extravagant, unique, eye-catching. Okay, but none of these words really get to the point, which actually was the point of being so ambiguous. So let me work my way around to it.
Pablo el Molinero.
I have always had kind of a lazy approach to spirituality. For example, the way I see it, why should I spend the vast majority of my spiritual energy trying to understand the nature of God and the universe, since our brains are wholly incapable of comprehension on those levels that we are barely even able to imagine? I always just assumed that we'd get all our questions answered once we die anyway. Our brains are just too limited to comprehend the full nature of God or infinity or quantum anything. At least mine is. I've had Einstein's theory of relativity explained to me plenty of times, and just when I think I get it, suddenly I don't. Frankly, I'm just not that smart anyway. Now I'll get to the point. Some people spend their lives meditating, and some of those people claim to ascend to a plane of consciousness that goes far beyond normal human experience. Their minds open up to otherworldly visions and experiences that most people can't achieve during normal waking hours. In recent years, when I am alone at night in my room, I have found a shortcut to that other plane with the help of certain produce available to some people if they know where to look for it. This is not something that I would ever be comfortable recommending to anyone. These are personal choices. While experiencing my shortcut, my perceptions of reality can become enhanced or distorted, and it's not always clear which of the two options is dominating the experience. And in both cases, since much of what is perceived is not provable one way or another, in the ensuing days I am tasked to evaluate the quality of what I think I learned. Well, let me rephrase that. The quality has generally been outstanding, but it is the veracity, or at least the likelihood of what I saw, that's worth considering. Some of what I have experienced has been truly remarkable and seemed more real than reality itself, and some of it, upon further reflection, has appeared to be the product of a train of thought that was probably flawed to begin with. There is one detail which I think is important to point out in the interest of transparency and honesty. Even though many of the thoughts that occurred to me go way beyond what I might normally imagine on my own, they pretty much never contradict what I already believe. But in order to make the point of this video, which I genuinely hope to amuse you with, I shall have to explain one of my core beliefs. In my personal religion, I can believe many things to be true, but I know nothing. For the record, I do believe in God, and I consider myself to be a Christian, albeit not a particularly observant one. But I have never believed anyone, theist or atheist, who claimed to completely and absolutely understand the nature or motives of God, or even what that word might mean. Is God the creator? Does the word creation even mean what we understand it to mean? I mean, what was there before creation, and who created God? What does God want for us? Is want even a correct concept? Some doubt the existence of God, because otherwise, why would God allow evil to exist? Well, my feeling is that it's presumptuous and arrogant to assign any limitation or anything like motive to something we can't possibly understand. I believe in evil, and therefore I believe in grace as a means to overcome evil. I have also come to believe that free will and the freedom to freely think, and therefore the freedom to express ourselves, are absolutely essential to the positive evolutionary outcome of the human race. Do I know this for a fact? No, but I believe it. Ironically, I find my belief that I know nothing to be quite liberating. Any number of things can be true, and there is no contradiction to my core beliefs. Not only is it lazy, but it's really convenient since I can't be proven wrong. All should be explained to me on the next level of existence. But what if there is no next plane, as the atheist would claim? Well, then, no harm, no foul, I guess. So let me continue with my experiences under the influence of my alternative thinking model vehicles. The evening begins with me in a perfect state of mind for prayer. So I pray. I pray for my family. I pray for my friends. I pray for my country, all of humanity, and I pray for my president. It's no secret that I support Donald Trump, so he is my guy, and I feel personally invested in his success. I do recognize that he is far from perfect. Trump sometimes says things that require me to resort to a leap of faith that, in the end, the world will be better off because of him. This has just as much to do with the certainty that I feel when I consider the alternative. I am convinced that woke ideology and the disaster of far-left policies, both of which have overtaken the Democratic Party, would have led to irreparable damage. I believe the world needs for Donald Trump to succeed. Sometimes after the prayers, my mind wanders to a place where many alternative theories are seriously considered. I have already expressed my belief in the duality of good and evil. In a recent video titled January 6 in the Cartesian Crisis, I mentioned my belief in non-human life. I also said the following.
Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum is himself an alien of the same reptilian race that tried to assist Hitler in World War II. He, along with his slimy human underlings such as John Kerry, seek to enslave the human race by depriving us of free speech and free will, therefore thwarting the natural evolution of the human race that might otherwise become a force against such tyranny by joining the Intergalactic Federation Against Tyranny, also known as the Good Guys. Klaus Schwab is from the lizard faction of the Intergalactic Federation for Tyranny and was planted among us because they fear that the development of humans' natural ability to remote view and see into the future could seriously challenge the plans of the Reptilian Insectian Alliance to dominate the universe.
I hope you take the time to watch the whole video, which is available for free at the Pablo El Molinero YouTube channel. While you're at it, go ahead and give a like to this video and subscribe to our channel. Share it with your friends and smash the bell if you want to be informed anytime we come out with new content. The clip was meant to be a little lighthearted and funny, but there is some true concern in there, and the idea did actually come from one of my voyages into the alternative reality. In 2016, the World Economic Forum posted an essay by a Danish politician named Ida Auken. The title of the piece was, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better." When I considered the implication of that, my enhanced vision saw a race that seeks to enslave humanity by making people subordinate to economic pressures and by limiting thought and freedom of expression. Think it's far-fetched? In September of 2024, John Kerry said in comments to the WEF that the First Amendment stood as a major block to the government's efforts to combat disinformation. So, imagine a world where people own nothing, as in no private property, and where freedom of expression is limited by what our government considers to be true information. Dissent might easily be eliminated. Could a lizard race seeking to enslave humans come up with a better plan? Doesn't Klaus Schwab look a little reptilian? Pretty spooky, huh? There have also been times when I put in my application for the human race for inclusion to the club of good guys of the universe, arguing that we are clever little monkeys who are more good than evil. The final determination of the validity of that assertion apparently remains outstanding. But there did seem to be a consensus that we have abilities which are yet to be fully developed or exploited, and which may make us worthy of consideration for evolutionary advancement after all. One important example of those abilities is known as remote viewing. Look up Project Stargate. I'll put links to a couple of good places to start looking at in the description. You may very well be wondering who is telling me all of these things. Well, I'm not actually sure. Is it God or someone from God's Office of Universal Affairs Management? I couldn't say. Is it someone from the Intergalactic Federation Against Tyranny? Could be. I have recently just started calling it our evolutionary caseworker, or ECW for lack of a better term. You may also ask what Donald Trump's role is in all of this. All I can say is that according to our ECW, he is the president of the part of the world that allows the greatest degree of freedom of expression. He is also the leader of a movement that is rejecting decadent and degenerative woke ideology within the framework of that very freedom. This is important. In my opinion, choices that are made in the context of freedom of thought have greater moral value than those which are imposed because of, say, strict religious law that comes with heavy penalties, as in the case of many Islamist nations. To my way of thinking, choosing choosing good over evil when both options are equally available has more value than just being good because there is no other option. The most revelatory piece of information from our caseworker is that we may be on the verge of our next great leap forward as humans. I was informed that it could be the result of one or two trains heading toward us at unstoppable speed. One of those is the development of artificial intelligence, which is apparently inevitable, and the consequences of which are not fully understood. The second transcendental event is the possible contact with non-human intelligence. Well, that could influence our entire understanding of everything. There has been one constant made clear to me in my quest for extended wisdom. That is, that man should seek a path to God. In fact, that is one of the reasons I started pursuing this hobby of mine. I wanted to see what else there was to see. For whatever it may be worth, I was completely open to the possibility that there is nothing there, but that's not what happened for me. As far as our president, we do have a stumbling block with us that may have actually necessitated a leader like Donald Trump to help us out with. Don't misunderstand me. The problem is not with Islam, but with the Islamist movement. This is according to our evolutionary caseworker, so don't blame me for passing on the information. Neither me nor our ECW have remotely suggested that we must kill all Islamists, but they cannot be allowed to threaten us as they have. Islamist ideology is simply impractical, and the apparent culture of death is incompatible with life and therefore ineligible for the next evolutionary step. You think they can't live with Jews? Wait until you see their reaction to a more developed race's view of divinity. And any so-called religion that rewards mothers who encourage their babies to strap bombs to their chest and blow themselves up in order to kill infidels, well, it's kind of like a philosophical genetic defect. Like the ECW said, it's not about Islam per se. All religions have their historical complications with intercompatibility. But the way he explains it, if they don't sell Coke in your neighborhood, well, drink a Sprite. The important thing is to recognize that there is something beyond ourselves. And according to my beliefs, we'll eventually find out the truth anyway. Every religion has a version of the golden rule. So don't go around killing and hating people as a foundation for your belief in God. After my post-experience after-action review, I do realize that there are one or two minuscule, practically invisible cracks in what I gleaned from my experience that shall need to be filled in. So please come back for the final chapter of this series to see how other believers might have filled in the missing parts. Thank you for watching. This is Pablo el Molinero.